Today, we are lucky to have Mr. Michiel Sweers, Director of Innovation and Knowledge at the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy of the Netherlands. He will tell us more about the triple helix, how the effective collaboration between the three actors works, and where the Netherlands is heading in an increasingly globalized world. Over the years, policymakers across the globe have sought new ways for their governments to work with industry and academia. The goal is to promote their citizens' economic and social development while improving their country's competitive position in the world economy. The Netherlands is a strong performer in WIPO's Global Innovation Index. In the past 10 years, it has always remained in the top 10 of the GII. In 2022, it is the fifth most innovative country in the world. The Netherlands has implemented a unique cross-sectoral collaborative model between public research and the private sector, called the triple helix model. The three actors, government, public research, and industry, collaboratively seek to drive transformative innovation. In a nutshell, the approach aims to increase collaboration between research actors to get commercialized innovations. Hello, Mr. Sweers. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So let me start with the very basics. Why do you think the Netherlands is the fifth most innovative country in the world?
Yes, well, thank you for asking me that question. And of course, we're very proud on our rankings. And as always, it's a mixture of reasons. There's not one definitive reason why we are in the top five. I think that we are a good place to invest and that we are a good place to do research and to live. That really helps. That we have a very open and international orientation. That really helps. And that we have excellent universities and research institutes is also key. But what really is defining us as a country is thinking our open mind and our quest for new opportunities always, and our will to cooperate. And that may have historical reasons or cultural reasons, but it's also something that we are actually trying to promote as a government. So I think cooperation is key to understand our success in this area.
It's very interesting that you mentioned cooperation because, as you know, the Netherlands ranks very well for this indicator we have on university private sector R&D collaboration. How do you think in practice this collaboration works? Why do you think the triple helix model is working so well in your country?
I think for several reasons. I think one of them, what I've just mentioned, is that we have an open mind and that we have a willingness to look across the borders. We are curious to learn from each other. So I think that's a kind of a cultural factor, but it's also something that we've been promoting and stimulating over the past decades. And perhaps it came out in hindsight, it may be a blessing in disguise in a way, because the model dates back to the financial crisis we've had. And at that time, we had to really cut spending and to take lots of austerity measures. So we had to look at our budgets again and do how to spend them efficiently. And we thought the best way to spend it efficiently is that we have a close collaboration between our research institutes and our private institutions, so that we do the most efficient choices where to do research and how to do research. So we started this policy over a decade ago, and we've continued to adjust the policy and to improve it over time. So I think the effort to bring universities and private research institutes and government close together has really helped to spur this policy.
Let me move a little bit into the private sector, the point of view of the private sector. How do you think this model has actually helped startups or young companies? How are they involved in the process?
Startups are crucial for innovation. So they bring new ideas, they are good in disruptive innovations, they create new markets, new opportunities, they bring in new people. So I think in any innovation policy, startups and scale-ups are a crucial aspect. And what this triple helix did is that it created closer ties between businesses and research institutes, and stimulated an entrepreneurial spirit within these research institutes and within these universities. So there's a greater focus on on the economic opportunities that come out of the knowledge and the research that universities and research institutes have. So there is a greater sense of how spin-offs can support and create the impact that's also important for the universities. So it brings businesses and universities closer together, creates an entrepreneurial atmosphere that really supports these startups and scale-ups. And we've seen many examples of this. So I think in the Eindhoven region, for example, you have a very thriving ecosystem of research institutes, large multinational corporation, but also all new startups that work closely together in this open ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like a very coordinated ecosystem indeed. Let me go now to the university side. I mean, it is known that sometimes, research institutes and universities are disconnected of, the practical needs of the country. How have they been adapting to this new way of thinking?
It's not always easy. I mean, there are also concerns within the academia and within the universities. Of course, there are concerns about the involvement of private, profit-driven interest within a university context. What does this do to your independence, and what does this do to the need for curiosity-driven fundamental research? But I think over time, universities have found out that if you make proper arrangements and if you build trust over time, then it also brings something to universities. First of all, of course, businesses also have a lot of knowledge that's of interest to universities. Yeah. They have their own research programs and they really support universities in their efforts. They also offer opportunities to test scientific knowledge in practice. How does it work in practice? And private enterprises have something to offer there to universities. And of course, also universities and younger researchers they want to have an impact with their research. And you can only have impact through private enterprises. It's not universities that are going to make the innovations and to bring them to the market and to scale up and have an impact. It's private enterprises. So if you want to have an impact as a university, you need these private enterprises. And I think over time, they found out and they learned how to make these arrangements and to protect, on the one hand, their independence, and on the other hand, also to make good use of what private enterprises have to offer.
That's right. And what about, I'm just thinking of these commercialized innovations. Do you think you can give us some examples? What has concretely come out with some of the projects you have observed over time?
Well, of course, the difficulty is always that there may be long lead times between scientific knowledge, innovations, and actually having market opportunities. Yeah. But over the past, we've seen many spin-offs that came out of these collaborations. For example, in the field of new battery technologies, we've seen many spin-offs recently. Also in the sphere of semicon, for example, photonics, quantum computing. We have now a large collaboration in the field of quantum computing, and we see lots of interesting new startups coming out of this, which is still to a large extent a scientific endeavor, but we see also new opportunities being created there. And of course, that's also what we're trying to achieve. So it's not only a scientific endeavor, but we're trying to find where are here the business opportunities for the Netherlands and how we actually earn a living from these public euros that are invested in this collaboration.
So let's finish the Helix and let's talk about now your role as a government. How do you see your role in all of this? Is it like you're actively motivating the actors? How has it worked in practice?
Well, I think our role has evolved over time. So traditionally, we thought about the government's roles in innovation in terms of positive externalities. So innovation and investment in research and development has a greater good than only, let's say, the private profits that come out of it. So we subsidized R&D and we subsidized some scientific research, and of course the more fundamental it was by nature, the bigger the role of subsidies and grants played. But over time we found out that the government has more to offer to actually stimulate innovation. So what's very important is bringing parties together. You may think that it will happen by itself, but it doesn't. No. At least not to the extent that that's necessary. So we often say that offering a cup of coffee is one of the most effective tools we have. So bringing people together and put them around the table and just discuss what they are doing and what they have to offer to each other and what they can learn from each other is a very important role to play. So I think the top sectors is something that came out of that idea. What we now see is that our role is bigger than just bringing parties together. Sometimes what's needed is also a direction. Where are we going to? What's the goal we're aiming for? So I think that's the last development that we've seen, that we try to give a sense of direction to these corporations. And that's what we call a mission-driven innovation policy. So why we have identified 25 missions that we are really aiming for. And I think that gives a direction, and it gives a stronger focus, and it also brings energy into the project. Yeah. So, I think those are 3 roles that we as a government can play in stimulating innovation in the Netherlands.
Sounds great. I think when I'm discussing with you, I see that all seems very natural and very organic, but this is not what we observe in many other countries. So just being a little bit introspective, how do you think other countries can learn from your experience?
This only works if there is trust between the parties. And to build trust, it takes time. So it doesn't let's say just building a building and putting all the private enterprises and the research institutes in the building and saying you're now going to cooperate doesn't do the trick. Yeah. So you need to build over time. You need to build trust over time, and to build trust, you need to experiment. You need to practice. Maybe start small and try with exchanges of personnel between universities and private enterprises and build trust over time. Get to know each other. Start small. Experiment. And if it's successful, build on that. So it's not something that you can create overnight. It's something that has to evolve over time, and that does take time. So I think that's something that I would say to your question.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is something we also like to emphasize. Innovation is a long-term, it just brings results in the long term, so it's a long-term plan, and I think, this goes in this direction. Now, let's be honest, nobody's perfect. What do you think you could still improve? What are you working now on for the future?
That's a very good question, and one I really have to think about. Well, first of all, of course, there are many barriers to innovation. Sometimes it's that people don't know each other. Sometimes it's institutional. Sometimes it's a lack of funding. Sometimes private investors are lacking. And as a government, we continuously look at the whole innovation ecosystem and try to find out where the bottlenecks are and how we can address these bottlenecks. So in the case of the Netherlands, for example, we currently see that what's an issue is that we have lots of startups, but how do these startups actually become scale-ups and create markets? So scaling up is an issue. So we're looking at that and see how we can solve the issue there, for example, by stimulating private investment through with the support of public funds. So that's one of the things we're trying to do. What we also see is that the system that we have created in the Netherlands with these top sectors and with these missions is quite complex. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to have all these coordination and to have these discussions and these meetings, and at the same time trying to see whether we can make it more efficient, trying to get rid of the red tape. Maybe one last thing that I would like to mention. So innovation policy is often seen, also in the Netherlands, as something of the Ministry of Economic Affairs. Mm-hmm. It's what we have to stimulate, but it has to be a whole of government approach. Yes. So for many innovations, you see that regulations hinder innovation and that we are not the ones who are making these regulations. Mm-hmm. So we need the Ministry of Health, we need the Ministry of Infrastructure, we need the Ministry of Agriculture to be on board of this project, to understand that they have a role to play when it comes to scaling up these innovations. So we're trying to bring them closer within this innovation ecosystem. So that's also something that we're trying to achieve right now.
That sounds great. So I think you have given us a very clear picture of really how you have put innovation at the center of your economic and development strategy after all. Is there something else you would like to mention that you think is important in how successfully you have implemented this model?
So I think IP is key, and to have a proper arrangements around IP is key. So of course IP is there to protect your innovation and to attract investors and to recoup your investment, and that is an important role IP has to play. But IP has another role to play, and that's it. It creates opportunities to share the knowledge you have and to stimulate cooperation. So IP, as we see it, is something that should promote cooperation, and it's also it's a necessary condition for cooperation to work. Yeah. So that's something we really focus on in our innovation policies, and we really discuss it with our universities, for example, to find out what are the best practices, not to protect the knowledge you have, that's the role IP has to play, but actually to share it and to have an impact with the knowledge you have. So I think discussions on IP are crucial in your innovation ecosystem.
That's right. We always say that the IP policy has to be really embedded into the innovation policy and all the priorities that go around it. So thanks a lot. It has been great discussing with you. It's been very enlightful, and I think this will be very helpful for other countries just to see your example on how you had gotten to the position you are. So congratulations again for your good position.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to this discussion.
Thanks everyone for joining us for this interesting discussion about how one government has established a successful model for working with the private sector and public research institutes. Subscribe to our channel to get notifications of other interesting interviews and leave any feedback in the comments below. Until next time.